So this video is going to show you how to use MongoDB with Python and the Python module Pymongo. Now MongoDB is an awesome database. It's super easy to get set up, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how you can get 500 megabytes of free data in the cloud that you can use for any applications that you want. So let's go ahead and get started setting up what's known as a cluster, and then we're going to start working with the actual Python code and seeing how we can do different operations on our database, retrieve information, delete information, add information, all of that kind of fun stuff. Now, just quickly before I move too far, I just want to say that this is a beginner tutorial. So I'm going to be showing you just kind of the basics of MongoDB. It's capable of a lot more, but if I were to show you everything, this would be hours long. So I'm hoping this will take about 10 to 15 minutes. And the Python code I'm going to go through will just show you the basic operations. So like add, search, delete, and find, modify, update, that kind of basic stuff. So with that being said, let's get started. So we're going to have to head over to mongodb.com and create some kind of account here. Now I've already got one, but what you guys need to do is just go ahead and click sign up or try for free. And then it should bring you to a page that looks like this. That is obviously once you've created an account. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click build my first cluster, and now we're going to select some options for our free cluster. So you get one free cluster with MongoDB in the cloud at least, and you can also host this locally on your own machine, but that's a whole different process that I'm not going to talk about today. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the default here. So Amazon Web Services, North Virginia. Obviously, you're going to want to pick the free tier that is closest to you, so you get the lowest latency to your database. But I haven't had any issues with speed or anything like that. Now, obviously, if you want to, you can update some of this stuff, and you will have to pay for it on a monthly basis or an hourly basis or something like that. But I'm just going to go for the free tier in North Virginia and click Create Cluster. Now, creating your cluster does take a few minutes because it actually has to set up and allocate some space on a physical machine for you. So give this a few minutes, should take about 7-10, that's what it says here. And once that's done, we'll get started working with the actual cluster. All right, so now that our cluster is created, we're going to go ahead and set up a sample database to start and then choose some connection options. So we're going to click right on cluster 0 right here. We're going to go to collections, and then we're going to create a new database. So to do this, we're going to click add my own data, and now type in a database name and a collection name. So databases are like specific to your application. At least that's the way that I typically do it. So let's say we have an application, maybe my Discord bot, for example. I would name this Discord, and then inside of collections, that's going to be the specific information associated with that database. So these are like kind of sub lists of the database. So maybe you want to have your information organized by like users, messages, connections, something like that, whatever it is. Then you're going to have 3 different collections for that. Now in our case, we're just going to have one collection and one database, and I'm going to talk more about this in a little bit once we actually get to the code. So I'm just going to name both of these test and click create. You don't need to cap the collection, although you can if you want. So we're going to do that. It's going to take a second, load up, and now we actually have a database and a collection. So you can see that this right here that's showing is actually our database, and then this is the collection, and you can create new collections by just clicking add here and then adding a new collection like that. So once we've done that, we're going to go back to project 0, and we're going to go to this connect option under cluster 0. Now, this is pretty straightforward, and it kind of walks you through exactly what you need to do. The first step is to whitelist your IP. So there should be a little button here that says whitelist IP. Just click that. If you're going to be working on a different computer, you're going to need to whitelist that IP as well. This is just the allowed IP addresses to access the database. Then we're going to create a MongoDB user so that we can log in. So in this case, I've already done one, but just fill in the information, username, and password. Next, choose a connection option. We're going to go to connect your application. We're going to change this driver to Python because that's what we're going to be using. Select the option or version you're going to be using, in this case 3.6 or later for myself, and we're going to click on copy. Now, once we've done that, we're all done everything we need to do from the web browser side, and it's time to actually run into our Python code. So I'm just going to paste that connection ID that I had right here in my Python code. And now it's time to install the Python module Pymongo. So to do this, we're going to go to our command prompt and simply type pip install Pymongo. Now this will take a second, and I'm assuming you guys already have pip installed on your machine. It comes default with Python, but if for some reason your pip does not work, leave a comment down below or click on the card that I'm going to leave in the top right hand corner here. It'll show you how to fix this command. So if you type pip and you get something like pip is not a recognized command, click that video, it'll show you how to fix this. All right, so now that we have Pymongo installed as our Python package, it's time to start working with it. So the first thing we're going to do is import Pymongo from the top of our code here, and we're going to say from Pymongo import Mongo client. Now what we're going to do is set up our initial connection to what that cluster is. So that cluster is the first thing we created, and what we're going to do is we're going to say, in this case, I guess we just do cluster is equal to Mongo client, and then in here we're going to put this URL that we had inside of quotation marks. So we'll put that in here, and we just need to modify this slightly. So where it says password in here, we're actually going to just type in your password. Now my password was just 1234, so I'm going to put that there. And for any of you that think you're just going to go and mess with my database, I'm obviously deleting this before I release the tutorial, so go ahead, but you won't be able to. Now, after we do that, we're going to define what database we're working with and what collection we're working with. So this is the connection to that actual cluster, so the machine that's holding our database, but now we have to pick what database we want. So I'm going to say DB, standing for database, is equal to cluster. And then just like you would index something in a dictionary, we're going to put the name of our database, which was test, inside of quotation marks, inside of brackets like this. Now we need to choose our collection that we're going to be working with. So now we've gone from client to database, now collection. So we're going to say collection is equal to, in this case, DB, and we name that one test as well. So we'll put test right there. And now we have access to our collection, and we can actually start adding some stuff into our database. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to add something. So to do this, what we're going to do is type collection.insert_1. Like that, and we're going to put in here what's known as a post. Now it's time to talk about what a post is. So the way that things work in MongoDB is we have, starting with our cluster, which is kind of that space in the cloud, then we have a database and a set of collections. Now a collection is kind of like a mini database. That's the way you can think of it. And each collection contains what's known as posts. So you can think of them just as entries, but we call them posts. Now, posts have a few properties associated with them. They look like a Python dictionary when we're dealing with them in Python code, or like a JSON file or something like that. And they always have what's known as this _ID tag. Now, this ID is how you're actually going to access all of these posts. So you want to make this something meaningful. Now, when we start creating a post, what we essentially do is just create a bunch of dictionary keys that map to values. So in this case, I have _ID. This is going to be a property of my post or an entry or some kind of information associated with that post. And in this case, I'm just going to set like ID 0, okay? Now, maybe we want to have some more information in this post, and we're going to maybe call this name. So I'm going to do name, and then I'll set this value equal to Tim. Maybe I want to have the date, or maybe I want to have some kind of number associated with Tim. Maybe I'll do like score, and this is going to be equal to, I don't know, let's say 5. So this is how you create information as a post in MongoDB. So again, we go from database to collection to post. And then inside a post, we have these fields. We always have this _ID field. And if we decline to give it a value, it'll automatically generate an ID for us. So some arbitrary number. And then we can give some values here, like name is Tim and score is 5. So now that we've created this post, I'm just going to call this one post like that. What we do is we simply insert it by just doing collection.insert_1 post. Now, if I actually run this code and we look at our database, you will see that I insert a post that looks like this. So let's go ahead and do this. Control B to run our code. No output, obviously, because this is just going to work. Now, if I go and I have a look at my cluster and I go inside of collections and we go to test, you can see that we have a post here, and this is ID 0, name Tim, score 5. Now, these are also called documents. I kind of just call them posts because that's what they do in the tutorial, but they're known as documents or posts, whatever one you want to call them, and they have fields associated with them, so ID, name, score. Now, I want to quickly show you what happens if I don't add an ID. So let's say I now insert something, so name, Tim, score 5, and I run this code. Now, if I go and look at my database, what you can see if I refresh this is, give it a second here, that we just completely create some random ID, which is known as an object ID, and obviously this does not mean much to us. So I recommend that you always create some kind of ID when you pass in a post or a document or whatever you want to call it into your database, but again, you don't have to. One will be created for you if you do not. All right, so now let's talk about some more things that we can do with our database. All right, so another thing we might want to do is insert more than one post. So to insert multiple posts, and actually as many posts as you'd like, what we can use is the insert many method. So we're going to say collection.insert_many, and in here we're going to put a list of the posts we want to insert. So really easy, straightforward, similar to before. We're going to do post 1 and post 2, which are 2 posts I've just created here. Again, we're just going to make sure they have an underscore ID. If you don't give it an underscore ID, it's going to generate that gibberish that we saw before. So I'm going to run this. We're going to wait a second and have a look at our database and see what we got. So give it a second, and now you can see that we have ID 5 Joe, ID 6 Bill. All right, pretty straightforward. That's how insert many works. Next thing we're going to talk about is find. So something you're probably going to want to do with your database is find information. Now to do this, we're going to use what's called a query. Now, query sounds all fancy and complicated, but it's actually really easy. And the way that this is set up in MongoDB just makes it super simple. So all you do is you put these dictionary things here like this. And now you're simply just going to type the attribute or the field you want to search by. And you can search by more than one field. So in this case, maybe I want to look for a post that has the name Bill. Well, what I do is I put name here, and then I put the value that I want to look for. So in this case, we'll do name, and we'll do Bill. And what I can do here is say like results equals collection.find, and then I can print out results like that. Now, if we give this a second, we'll run the program and we'll see what we get by running that. So we get this MongoDB.cursor object. So obviously that's not very useful to us. We don't really know what that means. So if we want to actually look through all these results, what we need to do is loop through them. So we're going to say for result in results, and then we'll just simply print result like that. And now let's see what we get. So if we do that, now you can see that we get this dictionary ID 6 name Bill, and that is the result that we found. Now say you just want to access an individual element here, so maybe you just want the name or maybe you just want the ID of this result. Well, you just do it like you access a dictionary. You put your brackets, you put some quotation marks, and then you put the field. So in this case, maybe we want to access what the ID of our result was, so we'll just put ID, run this, and now you can see that it prints out 6. Now if we had more than one attribute or document or post or whatever you want to call it in our database that have the name Bill, that would return all of the results that meet this criteria essentially. So this would give us more than one result printing out. Now, if we want to search by ID, what will end up happening is we'll just be finding one document. So in this case, we can do underscore ID, and then here we can put whatever our ID is. So maybe our ID is 5. Again, loop through this, and I don't know, let's just print it out and see what we get. Well, obviously we get the ID of 5. All right, so that's kind of how that works for searching. Now, if you want to do more advanced searching and finding, you can actually use regular expressions. So I could do something like name, and then I actually don't really use regular expressions at all, so I don't really know how to use them, but you can just put a regular expression inside of quotation marks, and it will search for anything that meets that criteria. Now, if you want to search for, what do you call it, like different things as well, like you want to search for name and ID and maybe a date, or you want to search by multiple fields, all you do is put a comma and then put the other field you want to search by, and it will return those results. So you guys can mess with this and figure out how it works. Pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Now this gave us a cursor object, which meant that we had to loop through all of our results, but sometimes we just want to find one result. So if we just want to find one result and we're certain that that's in the database or whatever, we can just do find underscore one. And then what we can do in here is the exact same thing as before. So we can just query by whatever we want and try to find one result. Now, the important thing is here that you're probably going to want to search by ID, because if you find more than one result, I believe this returns the first one, but it may actually run into an error. So obviously, if you're doing find one, you're going to want to make sure that you're only going to find one. So let's go by ID, and maybe in this case, we'll go by ID 0 and see what we get as that result. So let's do this. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to print results out here, otherwise we're not going to see anything. And give this a second. And now you can see I don't have to loop through it to see the results. I can just simply have a look at this. All right, so next thing after find and find one, actually, sorry, before I move on, I want to show you guys what happens if you find and you don't put any criteria in here. So if I just do find and I do that, we'll have to go back to this looping example. So we'll just say for, I don't know, X in results, print X. What happens if you just put brackets like this? Obviously, this means you have nothing you're searching for. But what it ends up doing is returning everything, because everything fits this format of just being a dictionary. So it's going to return everything. So if I do this, and I don't know why I'm going to command prompt when I can just run it like this, you can see that we print all of the results in our database and we get all 4 objects or documents or whatever is there. So that's how you find one. And now I'm going to show you how we can delete and then finally replace. So to delete something is really simple as well. All we're going to do is just go, in this case, we can do results equals collection dot delete. And if we do delete _1, and then in here, maybe we'll do like _ID :0. Well, again, it's just going to find the one document that fits this criteria and delete it. So let's go ahead and run this. Give it a second. Now, if we go into our database and we have a look here, we can see that ID 0 has been deleted from the database. So that's as easy as it is. To delete more than one document, we can do delete _many, and then we can fill whatever criteria in here we want. So maybe we want to delete all the IDs that have 5, or maybe we want to delete any name that has Bill, or maybe we just want to delete everything by putting this in here. Well, if we run that, then it will delete everything from our database. So now if I run this, you can have a look here, and everything is gone. So a powerful command, don't abuse it, but that is how that works. Now I just realized I'm gonna have to add some stuff back in here because, well, we need to do some more tests. So let's, insert _many, and just insert post 1 and post 2 here, just so we can actually do some more tests and make sure that this is working. So let's run that. And now what we're gonna do is update and replace. So sometimes you want to update entries in your database. You don't want to just delete them and re-add them or have to do any stuff like that. So what we can do to do that is update. So in here we can say update, and now again we can do update many or update one. In this case we're just going to do update one, and what we'll do is we'll do a search query for what is the document we want to update. And then we're going to add what's known as update, update operators or something like that, that will tell us what we need to update on. So I'll show you how that works in just a second. So if I put _ID here, and let's say we update, what IDs do we have? ID 5. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put an update operator, which is, I'll talk about them in a second here. So something like set. All right, and then we're going to put a colon in the value we want to set. So I'll show you how this works by just looking up the documentation here. So essentially what we do is we have something like increment or min or max or mul, rename. These are the different update operators for fields. There's some update operators for arrays, some update operators for modifiers, bitwise. I'll leave a link to the description down below, but these essentially do what they say they do. So set will set the value of the field in the document, which we will define. Set on insert will do what this says. Unset will remove a field. Max will go to the max value of that field. Increment will increment it by a certain amount. So if I show you guys how this works here, essentially what we do is we go set, and then we put colon, we put whatever the values we want to update. So in this case, maybe we want to update, let's say name, and we want to change that to be Tim. Well, that's all we do. We do set name Tim. Now, if I run this here like that, and we go into our database, you can see that we've actually changed those things that were added. So now we have an entry that says Tim. So there we go. ID 5 now says Tim instead of saying whatever the other one did. Now, if we want to add a new field here, all we do is just write the field in. So if I say like hello, and maybe that's equal to 5, and we let that run, well, now we'll add a new field called hello, and that will be a part of this document. And give that a second. And now you can see that we have hello and 5. So that's as easy as it is to update fields. Really straightforward. If you want to update more than one, you can do update many. And then same thing here, you can just change this to be like something that will access more than one document, and then this will stay the same. Whatever you want to set or change or update or increment or whatever that is will happen there. So let's say I actually want to increment hello. I'll just show you how this works quickly. If I go increment and then I go hello, and instead of now setting it to 5, what's actually going to happen is we're going to add 5, because increment means increment by whatever this value is. So if I run this by hitting Control B, we go back here, we refresh. Now we can see that we've actually updated hello to Tim by using that increment set operator, or update operator, sorry. And you can see what all these are here. Again, link in the description. All right, so the final things that we might want to do is actually count the amount of documents that meet a certain criteria. So what we're going to want to do that is use count underscore documents. So I can say post underscore count equals collection dot count underscore documents, like that. And then all I do in here is put some kind of query, so what documents I want. And if I print out post count, it'll give me an integer value for all of the posts or documents that fit that criteria. So in this case, I'm searching for everything, so it should just give us however many documents we have in there. So let's go ahead and run this. And you can see that we get 2, because again, we only have 2 documents that are in our database. So that is kind of as easy as it is to it. You can see that everything's pretty intuitive. We have count documents, we have insert many, insert one, replace, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, I hope you guys got some value out of this video, and now you're able to use Pymongo and MongoDB. Again, a really awesome resource, really easy to use for your own personal projects. You want to host some stuff in the cloud. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below or join my Discord server, message me on Twitter, message me on Instagram. I'm always helping out people in that way. And finally, if you guys did enjoy the video and got some value, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like